Hello and welcome to another episode of The Coder Career with me, Cameron Blackwood. Today's guest is Cristian Florea. Cristian is a highly experienced React developer and runs a training and support program for developers that are self-teaching. Cristian joins us today to discuss how he got into technology in the first place, his journey to promotion incredibly rapidly, and the lessons he's taken from that. If you're trying to get your first or second development job, this will be a particularly good episode for you because we discuss a number of strategies on how to learn things quickly and make them stick, and as well as that, impress the recruiters that are going to be looking at your CV. The sponsorship slot this week is dedicated to my own Discord server. If you'd like to join, the link is in the description. We're trying to build a great community of aspiring developers who want to learn from each other. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Hi there, Cristian. Thanks so much for joining me this evening. How are you doing?
Just over here being boring as always. What about yourself?
Yeah, not bad. Can't complain. Just trying to stay warm as the temperatures are dropping. Yeah, I've run up to Christmas, so can't complain. I know it's still a little bit early, but yeah, why not get a bit excited?
Yeah, over here in Warsaw it's quite cold. It's terrifying to get out every
Oof.
night when I go to the gym. So
Yeah.
it definitely wakes me up before I have to go to bed. So
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it's here in Scotland. It's been like sort of 4 degrees, which is just about manageable, but much lower than that, I can't really deal with it.
yeah, are you Scottish though?
Yeah, I am. But I went to school in London, and I
That makes
basically
sense.
I lived in London for like 20 years. So I basically sound English.
Yeah, that's why I was like, this guy doesn't sound like he's Scottish at all.
Yeah, means my accent's a bit easier to understand a lot of the time.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's one of those funny ones. Whenever I'm down in London, everyone knows me as the Scottish guy. But whenever I'm up here, everyone knows me as like, oh, it's the English guy, the guy from London. So I can
Yeah,
never win.
yeah, for sure.
Cool. So for the listeners who aren't aware of who you are, do you want to give like a quick introduction to who you are and what you do?
Um, like one of the things that I'm doing right now is I help people break into tech, and more specifically get into front-end development, help them become React developers. That's what I do. That's on the side. Or I mean, in the front, behind the scenes, I'm just a regular guy. Just you would not really turn your head to look at me. To be fair, normal
uh,
life, boring life.
cool. Well, to get to know you a little bit better as well, I'd like to start things off with some quick fire questions. First one's always a good one for the developers. What was your first ever computer?
I think I had my first computer when I was 13 or something like that. It was an iMac. My mom bought it to me, iMac 21 inch. My mom bought it for me so I can make music on it.
Oh, nice. What kind of music?
Yeah, electronic music,
Cool. I used to
house
produce electronic
music.
music back in the day.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
love that stuff.
yeah. I bought it so I can use Logic on it.
Oh, nice. I used to use FL Studio, so I was
I started with
always on
that.
Windows.
I started a bit with that. I was playing on my mom's computer with it, and then I convinced her to buy me an iMac.
Yeah, nice. There's
Yeah.
yeah, it's good DAW. I think it's called Logic. Yeah, I played around with it a little bit, but I still edit the podcast in FL Studio. Actually, I've just
Mhm.
a bit of a nostalgic thing, even though I run Mac these days.
It does the job, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It does the job. I hope so. Anyway, the listeners can feel free to disagree and message me. Cool. And we were talking just off air, and actually a little bit on air as well, about cities and locations. But what's your favorite tech city?
My favorite tech city, I guess the only real tech city that I've been working in is London, but I guess London is not my favorite city. Right now, it's Warsaw. I really like Warsaw, um, because it has like a good mix of modern and old.
Hmm.
But I would love to live in Hvar in Croatia. It's like a small island. I've been there. But another great tech city that I've heard of, or I've heard it's a great tech city, is Lisbon. I've been there for a week, a couple of years ago, and it's amazing. The food is amazing, and I would maybe in the future I would think about moving there to Lisbon.
Nice. Yeah, good
Yeah.
climate for sure. I've heard really good things about the tech scene in Lisbon. Like, it's one of it's I think it could be one of the next big cities in Europe for the tech scene. A lot of cool startups coming out of there.
Yeah, yeah, it's really up and coming, for sure.
Yeah. Nice weather as well, which is always a huge plus.
And the steak, man. The food I ate in Lisbon is crazy. I
I've
still
got to
remember.
try it.
I still have dreams about that steak that I ate there a while ago.
You'll have to tell me what the restaurant is. I was hoping to go to Lisbon next year for my birthday. So
I don't
yeah,
remember the name of the restaurant. That's the problem.
uh,
So I have to try all of them.
yeah, that's the best way. You just got to try all the good steak restaurants.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool. It's the first time Lisbon's come up actually, and I think this is episode 18. So
Mhm.
that's it's an interesting one. But yeah, I think Lisbon underrated city from what I've heard, but haven't got out there myself. Hoping too soon. And obviously, you're a coder. I'm a coder. What type of music do you listen to that on those days where you just need deep focus?
Honestly, I like the hip hop from the or the R&B from the early 2000s, right? Right now, I really like to listen to like 80s songs or 90s songs. I really got into that recently. My favorite song right now is "Careless Whisper." It's
That's a great
extremely
song.
cheesy. It's extremely cheesy, but I really like. I really like it. But before that, I was listening to a lot of electronic music, house music. I really liked Steve Angelo. I don't know if you know Steve Angelo.
Oh yeah, I know Steve
Swedish
Angelo.
House
Yeah.
Mafia, Axwell, Ingrosso, all those guys. Yeah, that's what I used to listen before. It was more like a religion, but now I'm pretty much I listen to anything really.
Yeah, I whack that stuff on every now and again as well. Like brings back good memories of university when all that
True.
mattered was when Avicii's new track was dropping.
How
That was
old
the
are
only
you?
thing that mattered. I'm 26. I turned 26 this year.
I'm 27, so we have the
Oh,
same.
okay.
We are from the same generation, actually.
Yeah. There was that was a huge for electronic music fans. I think that's sort of like 2011 to 2015. That was a golden
Yeah,
age. That will never be repeated.
yeah, true. That's when I was producing music as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same for me. I loved it, and like literally, good memories of university. Just locked in the room when I should have been learning programming, programming a digital audio workstation till 4 in the morning.
Yeah, yeah.
Annoying my flatmates for playing it out loud. Like,
My mom as well. She told me I'm not gonna have ears when I grow up.
I was warned the same thing, and I did actually end up getting a tiny bit of hearing loss. So it can happen, but it's like 10%. But yeah, I got a telling off from the doctor. Listened to my music too loud, apparently.
I mean, it was worth it.
Oh
So
yeah, for
yeah,
sure. Yeah, that music still slaps to this day for sure.
sure.
And what about your time of day? Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Mm, this is an interesting one because I'm a middle of the day kind of guy. In terms of doing my work, middle of the day. I used to go to bed at 2 a.m. and wake up at 10 for the past 3 years. But I recently switched from that and I'm going to bed at around 10 till 12 um, in the what's the name? Ah, I forgot the name. So 10 p.m. till 12, right?
Mm,
Somewhere around that. Those hours I'm going to bed now, and I wake up at 7, 8. Crazy, really. In the morning, I do nothing, or I go to the gym, and then I start working properly around 1 p.m. till 7 p.m. Something like that.
nice. Yeah, I've been trying to force myself to be an early bird. It's been kind of my project recently, but it's still getting some used to. Like I got to the gym at 6:15 this morning, and I just literally didn't even want to get out of the car. Just felt sick. It was cold.
Nah, I don't want to do that. Like I want at least 1 hour before after I wake up, where I do nothing, before I
Yeah.
even consider doing something.
See, I don't trust myself to go back to not go back to sleep if I do that. That's why I have to get out the door
Mm.
immediately as soon as I wake up. Literally, just have my tracksuit by the door, just yeah, and then just go. Like otherwise, I just know I'm going back to bed.
I wake up naturally right now. I wake up naturally. I started taking this supplement for sleeping. I forgot the name of it. It's like a natural thing. Um, it's a natural supplement for sleeping, and I wake up naturally at 7, so I don't have that problem anymore. But I do understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it improves, but yeah, I'll force myself one day to be an early bird for sure. And what about pre the code days? I'm wondering if I can predict this answer a little bit. But what
Mhm.
job did you want to have when you were a kid?
Formula One driver.
Oh, I thought you might say DJ, F1 driver. Then that's cool.
Like that was the first one, the first job. Then DJ, yeah. Uh, and then I wanted to become a lawyer, then a bailiff, then I settled for coder, and now I'm teaching people programming. So
Nice.
yeah,
Are you still a big F1 fan to this day, or was it more when you were a kid?
uh, kind of. I like learning about aerodynamics and how they shape their cars and things like that, rather than watching the races. I'm more interested in the car aspect rather than the actual driving. But I have on my bucket list going next year to an F1 event in Russia,
Oh,
in
nice.
Sochi. Yeah, so
Hmm.
that's one thing that I want to do. So let's see if it's gonna be possible.
Yeah,
But
fingers crossed with
fingers
COVID
crossed.
and
Yeah,
everything. Hopefully, it should be possible. Yeah, I went to.
yeah.
I was a huge fan when I was sort of a teenager, and I went to Silverstone once, and it's really
Mhm.
cool. But the only thing I found about it was it's just weird that you can't actually really see the car that well.
Mhm.
Just as it's going past you, and you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
got to get yourself on a corner. In fact, actually, do you remember Jarno Trulli, the Italian guy, drove
No,
for like Honda or someone. He smashed into a hairpin at Silverstone right in front of me. So that was pretty crazy to watch. Just
you should have taken a
imagining the bill.
selfie.
Yeah, happened so fast, didn't it? Yeah, didn't it? That's the crazy thing. It's how quickly they stop. That's
Yeah,
pretty mad. Yeah,
yeah. The speed is crazy, but the way they stop is even crazier.
yeah. Watching
Yeah,
the debris fly everywhere, just thinking, wow, someone is going to be very upset that they have to repair this.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the cooler jobs that people have said about. So obviously, you aren't in F1 at the moment, so you've ended up becoming a developer and now also as well like a coach almost as a developer.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
but originally, how did your journey into technology start? Where did you get to the point where you became a coder full time?
Um. So I knew about coding uh, when I was in high school. I had this friend, and her boyfriend was a programmer, and he was making a lot of money. And he had like a flat in the middle of the city, like a two stories flat. You know,
Mm.
and I was like, how can this guy afford it? Didn't make sense. No, A plus B equals whatever. Didn't make any
Yeah,
sense. I forgot about it, and then I arrived in London. I was working a dead end job, and I was like, I need to do something about this. I can't be uh, washing dishes for the rest of my life, or something like that. So I went into a bookshop. I think it was Waterstones, if I remember correctly. And then I saw this book about HTML and CSS, and I was like, I think I know about this. I think I bought it the next day, and then I started learning by myself, so on and so forth. And I I gave myself a deadline for a year to get hired, and I've managed to make it. I think in 11 months, something like that.
nice.
So that's kind of the timeline over there.
That's good going. Consider entirely self teaching. That's really good to be able to do that
I
within
had
a
a, I
year.
had a, I had a mentor, not to the extent that I am doing it right now, but I had someone
Mm.
to talk with and someone that was guiding me uh, a bit, and that definitely helped. And he told
Yeah,
me, "You're ready, go for it. Otherwise,
yeah.
I would still be learning. To be fair,
It's a
yeah.
hamster wheel. That's the thing, really. Like I got really, I really spam my tires. I guess be a good way of putting it
Are you self-taught as
so
well?
long. Yeah, so I taught myself. I have a business degree. Left
Hmm.
school. So my actual whole niche, partly why I started this podcast, is I used to be a technical recruiter.
Hmm.
So
Really?
actually, for listeners who maybe because I haven't told this story in 10 episodes, I have basically I go to university, do a business degree because I figure probably the best way to make some money, like pretty wide spectrum of things you study. I'll find a niche that I'm interested in. I did my final year internship. Ended up in supply chain. Actually working in Prague at a large beer company, and I thought, how could I hate doing a job where I work in beer? Absolutely hated it. I realized I didn't enjoy doing supply chain. My job was like basically helping them figure out efficient routes, which would have been really helpful if I could program, but it never even occurred to me to learn anything like that.
Mhm.
So I leave, realize that one way I could maybe quickly make some money is going to technical recruitment after university. So did that for a year. Um, Realized that like the money actually wasn't as good as everyone said they were making, uh, which
Mhm.
is often the way in sales. And I realized that actually I could make more money by actually coding myself instead of recruiting the people that coded.
Mhm.
So I spoke to some candidates and I was like, "What do you think I should do?" And they gave me some advice. So I started teaching myself at night. And then this is the problem. This is where I span my tires for so long. I was coding every day for like over a year. And by that point, I was consulting startups as a recruiter. We're going in on a day rate, just helping them recruit. And I couldn't work out when to make that jump. So what I did in the end, I decided as almost like a promise to myself, I would search for a job. Is I signed up for like a React course,
Mhm.
which wasn't a full boot camp, but it was a React course for like six weeks, 6 weeks I think it was.
Mhm.
And then I went in after that. So I was well prepared, but yeah, I should have. It sounds like you had, because you went in with the deadline in mind of 1 year. I wish I'd done something like that because actually I could have been in a full time job probably a year earlier than I actually was in the end. But you know, ended up there eventually.
There's that saying that if you give yourself X amount of time to get the job
Mm,
done, you'll take X amount of time to get it done, you know? So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I still find that the way with sprint planning as well at the moment. If I give
true.
myself too long, I'll take too long to finish the task.
Yeah, that's true. You'll take it till the last day, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And in terms of learning new technology, obviously you mentioned a book which is quite interesting because, like me, you learn in the 2010s. So a book
Mhm.
has actually gone a bit out of fashion. Would you recommend people learn from books, and what methods would you say are good to learn new technologies?
Depending on who am I talking with. Is this person a complete beginner? Is this person, you know,
That's a good question. I
is
mean,
is it
what
you? You
I
know?
would say to someone who maybe has started to learn to code, maybe not quite got their first job yet, or they've gotten a first job and they want to improve.
So I kind of split people into four stages, and these
Hmm.
four stages apply to literally everything, right? The first one is the chicken, and the chicken is completely useless. You know, like everything you throw at the chicken is like completely overwhelmed. There's too much happening for them to even comprehend, you know, the situation. You know, they don't know
Yeah.
what they don't know yet. So that's the chicken. That's we are all chickens at some point. When you started this podcast, you were a chicken. When I
Yeah.
started coding, I was a chicken. Same with everything. Yeah. Then you become a duck, and the duck looks like it's doing a lot of things, right? But can barely fly, can barely swim, and can barely run, right? I think this is the person that you are talking about, the duck,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
The person that has some concepts. Well, the best way to learn is to apply the information that you already have and try to break things down, right? Try to look at things and break them down into concepts, you know, without trying to come up with new things yourself. You know, try to understand the patterns. I actually made a video about this recently, where you just have to realize that there are a few patterns that you have to understand, and then you have to look at different scenarios and you have to apply those patterns, mapping, looping, modifying objects, etc., etc. But then you have to look at programming outside of the code and see it working on the screen if we are talking about front-end development, if that makes sense. Another suggestion that I would give to anyone is to understand the difference between just in case learning and just in time learning. Well, a lot of people are trying to learn everything in case they might need it, right? Where me and you, we both know that if we start working with a new library, we don't study the whole documentation. We don't do that. We just look at the get started page, which is like what? Uh,
Just like a quick sandbox example,
Quick
like for you.
sandbox, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I have to change this, then I'm going to look at that part, I'm going to look at that part, I'm going to look at that part, and so on and so forth until I figure out the whole thing, right? So that's called just in time learning.
Yeah.
And then with time, as you have more exposure to this thing, you gain experience, and then you get better and better and better and more proficient as time goes on. Yeah, so this would be my uh, the advice I would give to myself as well.
Mm. Yeah, it's an interesting it's an interesting way of putting it, because I think people do just get really wrapped up in it. And would you say that people should avoid relying too much on tutorials then, and maybe just try and build things practically themselves? Because I would probably say that.
So yes, I agree with you, and I'm going to tell you why. Tutorials are made to solve a problem, right? But then you have to have the problem to solve it, right? Because even with my students, I don't give them all the information. I give them maybe 20% of the information you'd get in a Udemy course, really, right? I don't give them the A, B. I don't show them how to build an entire application from scratch, but I give them just enough so they can build it with their own hands and then learn the skill of Googling and finding how to solve the problem. And they will find the solution or a tutorial for the specific problem that they have,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah, and I think it's a difficult one to almost put into words, but like how important it is for a junior to be able to understand how to research a problem and troubleshoot. Troubleshooting is probably the most important skill, singular, in software engineering. Like when I started as a software engineer in my first few months, like I really struggled to sometimes understand why a problem was happening, and just googling things in the right way is actually just so effective. I found, and it's the biggest thing that's actually sped up my development is ironically nothing to do with actually coding. It's just my research
You
skills.
know, everyone has Google,
Mm,
but I know what to Google,
yeah.
and that's the experience that I have, and that's the experience that you have, and that's the experience that everyone should get.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you can, yeah, just knowing where the useful resources are, and kind of zooming into those, and like knowing the usual suspects is what I'd call them. Like, for example, for a front end problem, like if I just want to quickly implement a grid or something like that, and I can't be bothered with the thinking about exactly what needs to go where, I'll just search up examples on CodePen. Like,
Hmm.
you can just search, like, say, I mean, obviously this is a simple example, but 3x3 grid CodePen, you immediately have
Hmm.
a load of examples. You can see how it is. You can interact with it as a good front end example. Like there are so many easy ways to research, and yeah, it's easy to get stuck on that tutorial hamster wheel
but
for
but
sure.
you know what you want, right? But if you don't know that you need a 3x3 grid, then how do you find it? Like, people need
Yeah.
to learn how to put labels on the things that they are looking for,
Mm.
because if you're like, I need a square, well, that's a very broad problem. But if you start defining the square that you want, then finding a solution for that problem is going to be easier, and I guess that's an important thing, putting labels on things, and then it brings you back to the patterns, right? Because if you know the patterns, you know the labels that you can search for.
And by extension, and if I'm talking about like my biggest regrets, it's not taking enough notes using an app like Notion or Evernote. I didn't start doing it until later in my career, and there are so many patterns that I follow every day that I know now and that I've taken notes on now. But back before, I was resolving the same problems over and over again, which, one, is a waste of time, and two, also as well, that time you could be the opportunity cost of that time is you could be using it to learn another aspect of your skill and speed up your learning. Like, say, for the grid, if I make a grid cheat sheet for myself with the common patterns, then
Hmm.
I know how to make a landing page very quickly, for instance, just based off the patterns
Hmm.
that I have in notes. And it's something that I
Hmm.
never did enough when I was learning, just nowhere near enough notes. I mean, would you
Hmm.
say the same thing? Just like basically have a whole cheat sheet database?
I'm not a note taking guy, bro.
Oh, really?
I'm really the worst at this. I have like I have Notion, and then I have Notion split into two parts. One is like to dos, which is pay accountant and buy plane tickets, and the other one is like ideas that I have and I never look at again.
Yeah.
That's my, and I every day I add something to that ideas list, and I never open it again. But the idea stays in my head, and I'm using it without knowing.
That's
You know,
good. At least you write it down for the first time, and then maybe that's what makes it stick.
probably. Yeah.
I use it a lot for the thing I use it most for actually is keeping track of podcast scheduling. It's
Hmm.
actually one of those things that's like weirdly really difficult to actually keep on top of,
Hmm.
because I've only forgotten a podcast once, but it was very embarrassing when it happened. So yeah, definitely no Notion's worth using for that sort of
Makes
thing.
for a good story, right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't. You are a great testimonial for Notion. You know, since
Yeah,
I
exactly. I think they
yeah.
have they have a affiliate program, but yeah, maybe I should reach out, try and get some cash from them. But
I'm
let's
on the
see.
free one. I'm on the free one, and they never ask for money. And I think they gave me unlimited everything. You know,
See, I was wondering this as well. Their service is too good to be
it
free.
it used to be limited to like some amount of number of blocks.
Oh
A
right.
while ago, I remember,
Mm.
but then that limitation is not there anymore, so I don't need to pay for it. I never
Yeah,
paid for it. My
it's very
friend pays for it.
strange. Yeah, I don't see why I'd need to pay for it with how good it is. So unless the
I would
program's
though. I
absolutely
would
crazy.
if they would charge me money. I would definitely pay for it because
Oh
I use it
yeah.
for a lot of things inside the business, not just for my note
Mm.
taking. You know.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's worth just worth paying for. I mean, but like we were saying, obviously it's free, and if you're listening to this right now and you haven't downloaded Notion, absolutely urge you to give it a try because it syncs across all devices.
There is a 4 hour video on YouTube how to build a second brain in Notion. I highly recommend watching that.
Okay, I haven't seen that one. You'll
Yeah,
have to send that to me. I'll put it in the description of the podcast as well. But
yeah,
that sounds like
yeah,
that's really worth checking out. Um,
definitely. It's gonna teach you a lot of about programming if you watch it.
okay,
Actually, yeah, it's
cool.
pretty interesting. Yeah.
That sounds good.
Excel spreadsheets are really good as well if you want to learn programming. And I'm not even joking. You know, you can
Yeah,
create so many things with it. It's crazy. Yeah.
Excel spreadsheets from my degree doing business. I've wanted to avoid them ever since. It's just bad memories of
I love them right now.
learning all the functions. Yeah, I see why they're so good. I guess as well if you're like working because you're self-employed, right? I guess
Hmm.
it's very useful for all kinds of things for that.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And something that I guess links to this is a lot of my listeners actually are people that are literally like leaving school or university.
Hmm.
They've got in, they didn't know what they wanted to do when they started. It's actually exactly the same case happened to me. Didn't know what they wanted to do when they get into university or school, and are studying something unrelated, but they want to be a programmer. They've maybe got a little while before they graduate, so they've got some time to play with. What do you advise them to do right now if they want to get a job within the year, say example, to use your example?
I guess the first thing that I would do is figure out exactly the field that I want to play in. You know, so I cannot speak for backend, AI, machine learning, all this stuff. But if you are talking about front end, just understand what the front end developer does and what is the job of a front end developer, and then you have to reverse engineer from there. You know, it's it's the main idea is to have like some sort of plan that you can follow. You know, um, and when that plan goes wrong, don't jump on another plan thinking that's going to be easier. You know, it's the green gets greener where you water it. You know, it's
Yeah.
not on the other side of the fence. You know, so that was one of my biggest mistakes. I was jumping from thing to thing, thinking that that's going to be the magic pill, but the magic pill was actually forgetting about like getting my basics. You have your basics, and I guess the problem is identifying when you have the basics. You
Mm,
know, because you don't know if you have the basics, you keep going and keep learning different things. But if for some reason you say, okay, now I have the basics, then you have to try replicating things that you are seeing or interacting with while you are on the internet. You know,
mm.
that's the simplest way that I can put it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And a parallel between, I know we keep calling back to it, but the parallel between the music production and learning to be a web developer, for me, like I used to practice my music production by replicating existing big EDM tracks in FL Studio. And I did a similar thing when I really had just started to understand how everything worked in the DOM. I would literally just inspect element and just change things on Google's page. Just to figure right what goes here, how can I mess about with the styles and that kind of thing. And obviously, in my opinion, all your projects shouldn't be like clones of popular websites. Like you should have your own independent projects, but in terms of that, it's a yeah, I agree. It's a really good way to get a grip of how enterprise layouts actually work for front end, which I think the majority of people who want to get into it with a non-technical background tend to default to front end. And if you're listening
Yeah.
and you're not sure, then I personally, maybe I'm biased, I mainly do front end. I would advise getting into front end. It's probably the easiest break into without a computer science degree.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And obviously, the way a lot of people actually kind of learn to code these days, if especially without that background, is the bootcamp model. And obviously, there's good boot camps, bad boot camps, and I don't want to get sued for libel, so I'm not going to mention the bad boot camps. But a lot of the problem is across all of them, good or bad. A lot of candidates end up looking relatively similar. How would you say for a junior person who's come out of that 12-week boot camp, they know how to code now, they're ready to get a job, but their portfolio and CV looks the same as everyone else? How can they stand out from the crowd?
That's a very difficult because bootcamps are my competitors, so I'm not sure um, if I can comment on this without being biased. So
Yeah, not
uh,
even just boot camp, so like even just someone who's self-teaching, because a lot of projects
there
are the same.
there is from my experience, right, and seeing both self-taught developers and bootcamp grads, they have the same problem, and the problem is that they don't have experience. And what is experience? Because we have to define experience. I'm not referring to commercial experience, which obviously they don't have, but experience means understanding something well enough, understanding the intricacies of a specific technology or of a specific discipline, right? Which in this case is front end or web dev in general. Well, they don't have experience, they have exposure. They are exposed to the back end, to a database, to the front end, to a state management system, to a library like React. They have exposure, and that means they know a bit about React, they know a bit about that, but they've never had experience working just with React for 6 months. Do you know what I mean? Like 6 months straight, 8 hours per day of just React, if that's even possible, or React and Redux, like,
Yeah,
and working on the same app for 3 months.
that's a big
None of
culture shock when you get into a job and you realize how long term you're working on the same thing for. Like even just
you
two
for a
weeks.
year, a year, 2 years, and most people, they have an app that they've built in 2 weeks. For them, that app is amazing, right?
Mm.
But they don't know any better. So when they get rejection after rejection, they don't know why, because the bootcamp or the Udemy course told them, hey, this is all you need. But in reality, you need something long term, right? Because if you'd have a candidate, right, you want to look at their GitHub, especially if they're a junior. And then when you see that they've been working on the same project for 3 months, you'll be like, interesting, let me have a look. And then you see that they know how to use Git properly, right? You see that they've
Mm.
been using some sort of branching strategy. Um, they didn't push just to master like most people. There are some good things happening in there. But in 2 weeks, what can you do in 2 weeks? Like me and you, we know that in 2 weeks we are just setting up the project. You know what I mean?
Because the pace is so much slower in terms of like what you, because we have to be more thorough, and you have to make
Exactly.
sure that all the, if you want to test it properly, like even like I'm building the back end of Code Career at the moment, and
Hmm.
more or less gone public in the, it will be a jobs platform. And
Hmm.
actually, the more I think about it, the more the scope increases, and the more I delay my launch date that I will properly launch it, because it's a long term thing.
It's true. And last year in November, like 1 year ago, I was trying to launch a website as well, and I had the same problem as you with the egg and the chicken problem. And I was trying to build this landing page, and I've created folders for components, for my fonts, for everything. And I was like, what am I doing? This should be just a simple HTML page, and I'm creating this Gatsby monster.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with me? I should just get it done. you know but
Yeah.
we just think too much in the future. And the reason why I'm saying work on a project for 3 months is because you'll build that long-term vision. So when you jump in a job, you'll be able to think long-term instead of just jumping straight into code because that's the only thing that you know.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
I think just generally the fact that even just someone like we say 3 months, if you've worked on the same project for 3 months, you're immediately going to stand out to even yes, a technical recruiter is not going to be able to know about your version control strategy or anything like that, but the hiring manager will, and the recruiter will see, oh look, this developer has been working on this project for more than 3 months, and like it doesn't necessarily matter what it is. If it's speaking as the ex recruiter, if it's something that is maybe technically, sorry, commercially viable, then that's a huge plus because you shows you've always got a business brain on you as well. But even just anything that works really well for an end user that the recruiter can have a play around with, you're going to be straight to the front of the queue, especially as a junior.
Don't put a login. Don't put a login on your application. If I could say something, stop doing that. I know you are
Yeah.
excited about authentication and authorization with
Mm.
what's the name of that library? I forgot.
What passport
Auth
or
zero.
what?
Auth
Oh, Auth
zero.
Zero. I hate Auth
Yeah.
Zero. I,
Anyway, I know you love it. You've created your MongoDB CRUD thingy there where you can add users and stuff like that.
yeah,
I know it's amazing, but let the recruiter open your app and play
yeah,
with it before you shoot yourself in the foot with your login system. Then another thing is don't put it on Heroku, especially if you have the free plan, because
absolutely.
it takes 10-15 seconds. And like a recruiter doesn't care about it. Like a recruiter is like a normie,
Yeah.
doesn't know anything about technology. He's click on your website and it's like after zero point 0.5 seconds, he says or she says, this doesn't work. Bye.
Well, I saw that a million times. I didn't realize until I started learning to code, and I was in an office full of recruiters in London. And if you had it on a Heroku free plan, like your portfolio, it doesn't warm up for 30 seconds, and people
Yeah,
would be like, oh, he why even bothering
that's
to apply
junior.
that portfolio doesn't even yeah. And it was only when I found out it was like, oh, actually, wait, guys, there is actually a problem here. You have to wait 30 seconds. But the amount of people that might have ended up getting rejected or at least looked upon worse because their portfolio we thought didn't work and actually it was just loading up. You should
Like
use a free option. Like Vercel's great. I don't know if you've used that.
that's what I'm using. That's what I'm using.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the biggest problem with people is that they should have common sense,
Yeah.
which
yeah.
common sense is not that common, you know. And the things that I'm teaching, the things that I'm showing are so basics, but the basics are the like the meat and the potatoes of software development. You know, you don't need the fancy things to get things done.
It's always a big like sports cliche, but doing the basics right will often win you the game.
Exactly, exactly. Like if you go in the gym, right? If you do just the
Mm.
bench press, the deadlift, the squat, and the rows, you are done.
Yeah.
You don't need anything else if you
I
think
try and
about
avoid
it.
the cardio. I like doing that, but I try and avoid the cardio.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, it does the job, right? You don't need
yeah.
anything else. If you have just those four or
Yeah. The
five
compounds.
exercises, that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess for people, we've talked a little bit. We talked mainly about juniors here. For people that are already a junior in the sense that they've got a job,
Mm.
how would you say you can level up? Because obviously the learning never stops, right?
So for me, I'm a special case here.
Yeah,
I think I got to like maybe senior level, at least in pay, in 2 years.
that's good going.
So yeah, um, I don't know exactly what I did. I mean, I know what I did, but I don't know how easy it is to reproduce this thing that I've done. So what after I got hired, I started interviewing for my first job. I got hired 2 weeks in. I started interviewing every month, and I was getting so good at it. Uh, one recruiter actually called my boss, and she told him that I'm looking for a new job. And my boss told me like, "Hey, are you looking for a job?" Yeah, yeah. Anyway, but I got really good at it, and I got really confident. You know, it wasn't about solving puzzles because I've never been good at solving puzzles, and I never cared about it. But because I was so confident, and like juniors have like this thing where they say, can I have 35 grand per year, please?
Mm.
With that squeaky voice, you're not going to get more money. But if you're like, yeah, I would just want 50 grand, thank you. you know I think I became more confident, and I knew what I wanted from the beginning. I wanted to make 50 grand a year. That was my goal when
Yeah.
I got into the industry. So I said I'm gonna get that in maximum 1 year after I get hired, and I got that. So that was my goal from the beginning, and I I interviewed a lot. I got really good at it. Uh, Recruiters liked me, so I understand them. Uh, so they gave me the job.
Mm. Yeah, I think people overcomplicate it a lot in the sense of like actually it if you go in there and you know exactly what you want and you're already in a position of power if you already have a job and you're or looking for a new one, especially in this market at the moment, like it's a good position to be in.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's what that is. It's definitely one of the best ways to improve is by interviewing. And to be honest, anyone listening that's really worried about how their employer might react, if your employer finds out that you're interviewing somewhere else and fires you for it, first off, you can probably sue for wrongful dismissal, and second off, as well, it's probably not the kind of company you want to work for anyway. If they're so bothered about someone potentially interviewing somewhere else.
And three, you can find a new job because that's why you're
Yeah,
interviewing.
exactly. Like if you know React, which is what we've basically been talking about this entire podcast, you at the moment in 2021, you're not going to struggle to get a job if you know it and you commercially work with it. Like it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can even make more money as well.
Yeah.
It's all about how far are you willing to go. And
Yeah.
I'm a money driven person, as everyone is, but I'm more upfront than pretty much everyone else with it. So I'm gonna, if I need to get a job, I'm gonna get the job, and I'm gonna get paid for it. Well, so
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. And obviously, the ultimate money hack, particularly in the UK, because of the market, is if money is the main goal, becoming a contractor is probably the best
yeah,
way to go.
yeah, for sure.
Like, yeah, um,
500 to 1,000 per day. Yep.
yeah, exactly. Like, it's the best way to go. If the pure money, like, you can have a very fulfilling and financially rewarding career as a permanent employee as well. But contracting in terms of pure financials is I think, with the exception of the US because of different regulations, it's the best way to go. Certainly in Europe and the UK.
And you know why it's so good? Because I've been a contractor for the past 2.5 years, something like that. The best thing is, at least in Czech Republic, I've been contracted to a company in Switzerland through a company in the UK. So that's how I've been dealing with stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm paying really, really small taxes, 16% out of 60% of the revenue. And then, when I go into to a holiday, that's a business expense because right now I'm shooting content. And I have to pay for the planes, for the Airbnb. That's a business expense. My laptop, that's a business expense. They get 20% back, the VAT. This mic, business expense. AirPods, business expense. Phone, business expense. Car, business expense. So then my profit gets smaller, my taxes get smaller.
Yeah, and definitely an invest. I heard you mention the accountant earlier on. I was going to say, if anyone's thinking about this, invest in an accountant, because I was a contractor when I was a recruiter for a while, and I tried to do it all myself. It's not worth it. Just get an accountant.
No, I get an accountant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
in
get
the
two
end,
accountants.
yeah.
I have two accountants now. One that's doing monthly stuff for me, and one that's I'm consulting with him every now and then to see if I have to fire the current accountant.
Nice. I actually got my mum to do it. So if you're listening, mum, thank
Nice.
you. Much appreciated. um, yeah. And I mean, yeah, I think that's all really good advice, and people take a lot from it. Would you like to talk a little bit more about what you do and how you're helping people and your business as well?
So I have a very simple strategy. Is I looked at what I did when I got hired, um, and I identified the key applications that I have built that helped me understand that concept, this concept, etc., There are probably 20, 30 of them. So I identified in which way I should put them in. So I've created some sort of roadmap for people to follow. Uh, and then what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get them to a point where they can understand like at least the basics of building a React application. Where they get to that point, what they'll receive is mock-up designs for an application that looks like it's from the real world. Again, I'm trying to mimic the real world environment, which is you get a design from the designer, right? You don't come up with it. Most junior devs, they have to come up with a design and with the app idea. We both know that as developers, we don't come up with those things. We are getting instructions, right? Or requirements. So I'm doing that for them. So I remove two jobs away from them. And they start building this application. They have a lot of problems. They have to figure out how to use the previous learned patterns into building this application. They do that. And after 3-4 months, they come out on the other side with a nice looking application so the recruiters can give them a chance. And then when developers look at their code, they see the code that's being reviewed. They had PRs, etc., comments. They see all that stuff. I'm trying to replicate the real world work environment as much as possible. The only thing that's missing is the pressure. They don't have the pressure that they'll be fired if they don't deliver, But I'm trying to fix that before they get into the job, so they don't have that pressure, if that makes sense. And the last thing that I do, and I've been giving away on LinkedIn different things. One of them is how to find the jobs. So I'm using search queries as well to connect with people on LinkedIn, and I have used the same kind of search queries to find jobs on LinkedIn. So I think I gave those away for free. In a video, I explained how to use them. I don't remember exactly, but a few months ago, I think I've done that. So I showed them how to do that. It's pretty simple. Then I created a DM strategy so they can connect with those people from those companies that are hiring, so they can get an interview faster. It's literally copy paste, but when the recruiter or the hiring manager looks at it, they can't even tell. So that's good. So they can get jobs or job interviews faster. Then I think I've made a video about that as well, and there people can find it on my LinkedIn profile. They can comment under that post, and then I can give them the link for the video. It's like the entire thing with an explanation for every single step. That's pretty much what I do. It's not rocket science, but it's the basics that do the job. It's not fancy. It's really complicated. I don't think it's for the people that are looking for a quick fix, and it's not really a 3-month thing. Definitely not. There has to be a lot of motivation from their side. I'm not here to like take them by the hand and ask them, "Hey, have you done that?" I'm not a nice guy either, So if I see that they're doing bad things with their code, I'm literally jumping on them, Like,
Yeah.
um, I'm an asshole with a heart. That's how I call myself.
I'm not sure how biologically possible that is, but yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I
So
like the
I
metaphor.
I am nice. I'm nice, but not that nice. Like I am positive. I'm motivational. I'm inspirational. But when it comes to doing your job, you have to do it properly. That's
Cool.
the only thing I care about, and I want to see that you do more than the minimum work.
Absolutely. Yeah, and
Minimum
that's what it
work
takes
for
to stand
minimum
out, right?
page. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. You've got to put in the work. Work smart, work hard. Work smart and hard is the best way to do it,
Yeah.
for sure. And the best way for people to get in touch with you is that via both your LinkedIn and your website, or
Uh, I guess my LinkedIn and my YouTube channel.
okay, cool.
You can link those in the description
Yeah,
of
they'll be
this.
in the description. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. They can message me there. They can follow me. They can stalk me there. That's fine.
Good stuff. Yeah, I mean, we've been connected on LinkedIn for quite a while now, I think, and I've always enjoyed sort of seeing your content. So definitely worth it, listeners. Dropping a follow for sure. Yeah, that all sounds really good. But I really appreciate you coming on. It was great to catch up, and I've definitely learned a lot about learning techniques and I wish I'd sort of set myself that initial goal. That's my biggest takeaway. I wish I'd told myself you need to get a job within a year, because
Yeah, that definitely helps.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're listening right now and you're learning, if you're going to take one piece of advice from that whole episode, that's what you need to do, for sure.
All right. Thanks, Cameron.
Well, thanks so much for coming on, and thank you, listener, as well, for checking out this week's episode of The Coder Career. I hope you have a great week, and you can check out all the links in the description. And don't be afraid to join our Discord as well when I finally get it up and running again. The link, of course, will be in the description.